Welcome to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast, where we move from wonder to worship, looking for God at work in the world around us, ready to ask the tough questions and discover what His Word has to say to us. Today's episode is titled, A Gift Worth Singing About, and it comes from me, Casey Taylor. One summer, after nagging my mom to give me an allowance or some way to earn money to be able to buy music to listen to. Now, this was just before we could stream everything. You know, when you had to buy actual physical copies of a CD you wanted. Anyway, and after a few days, my mom told me she had a great idea for how I could come into some money. So I thought, awesome. She's about to give me a huge inheritance from some long-lost relative, or take part of her paycheck each week and reward me for the 1 to 2 tasks I was doing around the house. Those were all very incorrect guesses. What she offered me instead was the opportunity to go over to her friend's house and pick the weeds out of their backyard. And they'd pay me $30 each time to do it. So, long story short, I did it. And I kept doing it for a couple of years. And it wound up being the most amazing job ever. Not for the money, though it did help, but because the family whose weeds I picked would always have my mom and I over for dinner when I'd come to do it. And while I was there, I would always find myself in the middle of their music room. There were guitars all over the walls, and they always let me pick up one in particular and play it. And by play it, I mean picking a single note out, trying to put together melodies to resemble a song. And one particular time, after picking weeds and before dinner, Chris, the homeowner, told me he'd show me how to play a song called Smoke on the Water, because it was pretty easy to figure out if I'd learned a specific type of chord called a power chord, which I did, and that was the day I learned how to play my very first song on the guitar. I was so excited to play those same 4 power chords over and over and over before it was time to go. And just before I put the guitar back on the stand, Chris looked over at me and he said, "Hey, you really like that guitar, don't you? Listen, if you promise to play it, for as long as you actually play it, you can keep it." I couldn't believe my luck. I now owned a guitar. And if you fast forward to today, I have spent my life playing the guitar. And it's given me so much opportunity to make a living, create meaningful music to express myself, and a platform from which to encourage other people to worship Jesus. That last one is where we're going to focus on today, and all of this week. I have told that story, the story of the beginning of my musical journey, so many times in my life. And why? Because when someone gives you a gift that changes your life, you can't help but tell it. When that gift is an instrument, that's a story worth telling. But when that gift is life, and life free from the burden of guilt and shame, when that gift is love that cannot be changed by our failures, a love that saves us from judgment and invites us into steadfast, endless care and relationship with the God of all creation, now that's a gift worth singing about.
Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come to His presence with singing. Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. Enter His gates with thanksgiving, and His courts with praise. Give thanks to Him, bless His name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and His faithfulness to all generations. Psalm 100.
God created us, and He gave us life, just as this psalm says. And He decided to offer a glimpse of the magnificence of who He is to His creation, for them to experience Him, enjoy His benefits, and to know Him as we enter into relationship with Him. He wants us to see Him and to enjoy Him and to know how loved we are by Him. When we come to understand what we have in the gift of our relationship with God, what should our response and natural reaction be? This passage tells us that it looks a lot like grateful singing and loud noises of praise. Not old and worn out songs that don't mean anything to us, but new songs of praise from our own hearts that have been saved and changed, where we sing about our lives and what He has done for us and about what we've learned about Him. It will look a lot like retelling stories about a gift that was given to us that changed the whole course of our lives and gave us a platform to share and express our gratitude and joy with whoever would listen. That's where Generation Kids came from in the first place. I wanted a way to share the hope and joy that I found in Jesus. And my prayer is that this psalm will encourage you to think about the gift of Jesus in your own life and how he has changed you and praise him for it. Not just with your song, but with your very life. And if you don't know him yet, that you might consider a relationship with someone who has a gift ready for you, that if you're not careful, might turn you into a singer of thankful songs. I can't wait to hear those tunes. Now it's time for
Today's Big Question!
Today's big question is, if your life was a worship song, what would it say? What would your story sound like? How would you describe God's impact and how his gift of salvation through Jesus has changed you? Maybe it can be a song. Maybe you'll sing it to him. Maybe others will sing along. Thanks for listening to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast. If you want to keep in touch with us on all our social media platforms, check out the links in the description. And if you'd like to help support us as we continue to create meaningful content for kids of all generations, please subscribe to our Patreon by visiting us at patreon.com/wearegenerationkids.